Trash talk is something that is very common in the NBA, but how a player responds to it is what separates the greats from the decents. Some players let it get in their head, and others use it as fuel to have a great game. Other players don't even need full-blown trash talk. If one or two people doubt their ability, that's all they need to go out there and have a career night. Here's a few examples. The 1991-1992 season saw Michael Jordan and the Bulls dominate the NBA. Jordan had just won his first title the year before and came into the league with a whole new confidence because now he had finally gotten over that hump. He carried the Bulls to a franchise record 67 wins and was poised to make another championship run. He made his way through the playoffs and was set to face the Portland Trail Blazers, who got to the finals pretty easily, losing only 4 games along the way. At this point, Jordan was undoubtedly the best player in the league, but he was going up against the second best player in the league, Clyde Drexler. He was a top shooting guard in the league at the time, so naturally he was getting compared to Jordan. Throughout their careers, the two received a lot of comparisons, but going into the finals, the comparisons turned up a notch, with most acknowledging that Jordan was the better player, but it was considered to be very close, with Clyde being called the better shooter. Right before Game 1, Jordan responded to that notion, being quoted as saying, "He's a better shooter than I choose to be." It seemed that Drexler wanted no parts of hyping the individual matchup, downplaying it whenever he was asked, but it was already too late. Michael only needed the smallest excuse to prove his doubters wrong, and the media gave it to him. He came out Game 1 and knocked down 6 threes in a row in the first half. This is in a season where he shot 1 3 per game. Look at his first three-pointer he took. Look at the space they're giving him. If the Drexler comparisons didn't fuel Jordan enough, this right here should have been enough. He finished with 35 points, which is a finals record for points and a half, and the 6 3-pointers that he hit is also a finals record for 3-pointers and a half. Jordan was out to prove a point for the series, and in the first half of Game 1, that point was proven. The Bulls went on to win that series in 6 games, and Jordan completely dominated Drexler, scoring 36 on 52% shooting compared to Clyde's 25 on 40%. A part of me wants to say maybe Clyde learned his lesson, but this wasn't even his fault. This was all the media's doing, and Clyde was just collateral damage. So Michael and the Bulls would win their second ring against the Trail Blazers. Then, the following year, they beat the Suns to complete the three-peat. After that three-peat, Michael would abruptly retire from the NBA. He would miss the entire 93-94 season. He was set to miss the next season also, but towards the end of that year, in March of '95, Jordan would make his return to the league, switching from his iconic number 23 to number 45. Playing 17 games before the Bulls began the playoffs. The Bulls would make quick work of the Hornets in the first round, and then the second round they met up with the Orlando Magic, who had upcoming superstars Penny Hardaway and Shaquille O'Neal. They also had dynamic scorer Nick Anderson, who was a Chicago native. While each game was close, Orlando managed to pull away with the series in 6 games, and after one of the wins, Nick Anderson, referring to Jordan's number change, was quoted as saying, "45 ain't the same as 23. Big mistake. One thing players around the league at that time all seemed to understand was don't piss Jordan off. Because, as we've seen, he doesn't need much motivation to go out there and destroy you. Jordan came back the next year wearing number 23, and he did nothing but win his 8th scoring title and his 4th MVP award. He also led the Bulls to the best record in NBA history at the time, going 72-10, but there was still payback to be had. The Bulls walked through the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, beating Miami and then beating the Knicks, only losing 1 game along the way. Next, they faced off against the Orlando Magic in a rematch from the previous year, and Jordan wanted to prove to Orlando and to Nick Anderson that last year was a fluke. In the series, Jordan held Anderson to 8.3 points a game for the entire series, while Jordan destroyed Orlando, averaging 30 for the series, and in the closeout game, he scored 45 points. Was that final game a message to Anderson? Giannis Antetokounmpo is possibly the fiercest player in the NBA. His intensity draws comparison to Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, and rightfully so. While he isn't one of the best shooters in the league, he doesn't let that stop him from asserting his will on other teams. In the 2020-2021 playoffs, Giannis didn't shoot well from the free throw line at all, shooting 55% leading up to the NBA Finals against the Phoenix Suns. His inconsistency at the line was hurting his team, and his free throw routine was annoying opposing teams, drawing 2 delayed game calls in the postseason for his extended free throw routine. Critics began to be skeptical of Giannis' ability to be able to turn his free throw struggles around, especially now that the fans were taunting him, giving a loud 10 count while he's at the line doing his routine. Giannis, however, had other plans. Going into Game 6 of the NBA Finals, the Bucks were up 3-2. Giannis was shooting 39 for 66 from the line going into this game, but this game was to be played in Milwaukee, and Giannis clearly didn't want the series to go back to Phoenix because he came into this game dominating from the opening tip-off. He had his way with the Suns, finishing with 50 points, but the big surprise here is that he shot 17 for 19 from the free throw line. Imagine one of the most inconsistent free throw shooters in the league coming in and hitting the 3rd most free throws in finals history at a 90% clip. That's exactly what Giannis did. I guess great players do great things. In the 2006 FIBA World Championship, the United States, although they played hard, only managed to win a bronze medal. One player that was noticeably missing from that team was Gilbert Arenas. If you look at that team's roster, they only had 2 point guards, Kirk Hinrich, who was more of a combo guard, and Chris Paul, who was a rookie. Gilbert Arenas was coming off his 2nd straight All-NBA season. Well, Arenas was almost on the team. He was one of the finalists on the team before being cut by head coach Coach K and assistant coach Mike D'Antoni, who was the coach of the Phoenix Suns. Now, we've only heard one side of the story, but according to Gilbert, the reason he was cut was because his agent was the same agent as Shawn Marion, who was the Suns' All-NBA forward and was also in the middle of a contract dispute with the Suns, which would likely irritate D'Antoni, who was in charge of the roster selections for the FIBA team. If true, this would be an opportunity for D'Antoni to be pretty petty towards Gilbert's agent, but like I said, we've only heard one side of the story. Whether true or not, Arenas now had a vendetta against Mike D'Antoni. Before he left the training camp, he let D'Antoni know that the next time he played his team in the season, he's giving him 50. Fast forward to December 12, 2006, the Washington Wizards visited the Phoenix Suns, and Gilbert would finally get to go up against Mike D'Antoni and show him how much of a mistake he made last summer. Before the game started, D'Antoni said to him, "You're gonna need more than 50 to beat us." And he may have had a point. At that time, the Suns were on a 15-game winning streak. Challenge accepted. Bucket after bucket, Arenas came out the gate hot, scoring 17 points in the first quarter, and he did not slow down after that. They sent multiple defenders at him all game long, mostly rotating between Raja Bell and Shawn Marion, who were 2 of the NBA's best perimeter defenders at the time. But it didn't matter. Arenas was still having his way, converting the and-one that sent the game into overtime, and then hitting the dagger 3 at the end of overtime to give Washington the W, and finishing with 54 points. Point proven. Being the superstar of a team is a heavy task, but one of the main jobs you have is to rise to the occasion when the moment calls for it. Comment down below, guys. Until next time, this is Court Vision.